OpenAI is leaving its legacy all over the place. My gosh. So on a day that when we're recording right now, they have just announced that they've surpassed 400 million weekly active users. That is no joke. Holy cow. We don't tend to see a lot of numbers coming out from OpenAI. So that's absolutely colossal. It speaks really well for whatever adoption is, even if it's sort of like widespread. I'm loving that number. But Jaeden, there's that. But then just think about sort of like the OpenAI tree, right? Because we have news from Mir Moradi, the former CTO, who recently left, which and what she's doing with her startup, and then Ilya Suskova. So when you think about like that famous picture of the four sort of big people at OpenAI, it was like, Sam and Ilya Suskova and Mir Moradi. Most of them have left, right? So Ilya Suskova, controversial figure in that it seemed like he was the one that sort of started that Sam Altman ousting thing, but then he went off to start Safe Superintelligence, which has raised a colossal amount of money. So anyway, let me throw all that in your lap, Jaeden. Which of this stuff is interesting to you?
Okay, well, the first thing I want to talk about is just some of the numbers. I think a lot of people, this will be big headline. Everyone's going to want to know with the users. So we haven't had a solid update from OpenAI on actually how many users, and 400 million weekly active users is really, really insane. And all this is very insane considering ChatGPT had about 300 million in December of 2024. So we're in February now. The two months later, up 25%. And what's interesting about that is the 300 million, I'm trying to remember if they specifically reported, that could have been monthly active instead of weekly, so I'm not 100% sure, but regardless, who cares, because we're at 400 million. That is a massive jump. It's at least 25% in 2 months. And my question to you, Conor, is like, what do you think are the things that have contributed to a colossal jump in just the last 2 months? Like how did that happen?
I honestly don't know. I've been racking my brain to kind of think about like what might have happened, because it's not like they released something really brand new. It's not like anything. I don't know. I mean, I can see why it goes down, right? It may just be, maybe it would have been growing at this pace before, but then we started to stagnate over the summer and students stopped using it and things like that. I tend to think it's driven by students more than anything else. And it's like numbers like that have to be global. So there must be something opening up globally, right? You're talking about India, you're talking about not China, but you're talking about some of these huge countries that there must have been something that maybe opened up or something like that. That's the only thing that I can explain it with, because it doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, there's a couple things if I was a real betting man that I would put money on. The first one is with their search feature. So I think this is something that became a lot bigger. They're really trying to take on Google. If you click search, it's showing you all these like trending topics that you can click on. And the interesting thing about them is they made this free and you can use it when you're logged out. So essentially, just like Google, you just go and get your searches and it will give you your results. You pretty much can replace Google with this tool. And of course, we had like Perplexity doing this, but I think when you have the big player doing it, it has a really huge outsized impact. You're right about the students. I think it's students. I think it's a combination of students and just like making this search thing free. And the third thing that I think would have contributed a lot, which a lot of people might think is counterintuitive, I actually think DeepSeek greatly boosted ChatGPT, because DeepSeek was like, if you remember, there was a week there where it was all the rage. Everyone was talking about, the president was talking about it. Like every major company was talking about DeepSeek. Everyone was responding to OpenAI. Like everyone was responding to DeepSeek and what they were doing. And I think a lot of people would go and be like, oh, what's this new crazy AI? They'd go try DeepSeek and they're like, okay, well, now let me go compare it to ChatGPT. And maybe people that didn't use ChatGPT all the time, they've used it like, a year ago or a month ago for something. They're like, they need to go now compare to how it's doing to this new whiz bang DeepSeek thing. And then they're like, oh, actually, it's pretty good. I'll just keep using this for a couple things and maybe come up with a couple more use cases. So I think that it was like a reactivation loop from DeepSeek because it was just in the news everywhere. And then I also think you probably have school, and then I think you have making this thing free. I mean, there's no one thing. When you have a 25% surge on a company this big and an extra 100 million weekly active users, I don't think it's one thing, but I think all of those three things probably contributed to growing. So I think all of that's really exciting. The thing that I want to talk about next that I would love your take on is Ilya Sutskever. We have Safe Superintelligence. This is his startup, and it's been, he's been raising a lot of money. I think he made headlines because when he raised his first round of funding, he had a $1 billion valuation, and he said don't expect anything for like 2 or 3 years. And so
Yes,
people were just like, what the heck is this? Who's giving this guy money? Now the crazy news this week is that he is close, still with nothing released, he's close to raising $1 billion total. So before it was $1 billion valuation, now it's $1 billion total at a $30 billion valuation. Connor, how is he able to squeeze
I
$1
don't know.
billion? Is okay. And I'll wrap this up and give you your give me some input on this. But like, that's insane. He hasn't launched anything yet. I know he's got a big name and he's a big guy. Yeah, how's he able to do it?
I don't. Gosh, I feel like I'm just like this episode is just Connor saying like, I don't know, who knows, I don't know. But I mean, but honest to God, sometimes you just have to say like, I don't know. I mean, so $30 billion, he must be showing venture capital something.
Yes.
Right. But so first of all, it's the name, right? So in business school, so I'm at the business school at NYU. The biggest indicator of success for a company is when you have a team that has a joint track record of success, they call it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's pretty standard. And then you have these just AI, these gurus that you just think like there's a few of these folks out there and they're limited. I think we talked about it a long time ago, talking about them as like NFL quarterbacks. Essentially, they're limited, right? There's maybe a dozen, 2 dozen, something like that. But I'll tell you what, when you're a chief scientist at OpenAI, you are one of those people. And because they are few and because he has such a track record of building something really extraordinary, people are thinking, okay, same thing with Mir Moradi, who's built an incredible team around her as well. And also she was chief technology officer at friggin' OpenAI. So these are people that know what they're doing. They're bringing great people with them. It's sort of like how Anthropic was able to attract a ton of really cool people, how I think Meta was able to attract a lot of cool people when they announced they were going open source. I think that's huge. But how you get to a $30 billion valuation without any indication to the outside world, not even a leak or anything like that, and certainly not saying that there's nothing going to be for 2 years. 2 years in AI years is like 10 years in any other industry. So it's the 30 billion. I just feel like I'd spend the rest of the podcast just saying the number 30 billion. I don't understand it. I don't understand how people can see what they are building that's so radically different, because I've gotten a glimpse into some other AI companies that I thought were extraordinary, and they went nowhere. So it must just be that they figure like this is going to be one of the foundation models. It's worth tossing this much money at it, because if it is safe and it is super intelligent, whoa daddy, that's the whole thing right there. That's what everybody wants, safe and super intelligent. So I think he's trying to straddle the line between Anthropic and OpenAI, right? Anthropic has the safe label, OpenAI has the super intelligence label, and if Sutskever can do that, I think people would gravitate to it. He has instant credibility. I don't know, I'm just kind of guessing, but that's how I see it.
No, I think that's pretty accurate. I'm excited to follow along with the company. Again, nothing released, so there's not too much to sink my teeth into, but the numbers are pretty eye-watering for certain. Okay, you mentioned Miriam Moradi. We can't do this episode without talking about what just came out a couple days ago from her. She has announced a new company called Thinking Machines Lab. So she was the former CTO over at OpenAI. She also was the CEO for a short period of time when Sam Altman got kicked out. So Miria is like very legit. She's done some really impressive things. Phenomenal founder. Now, what is she building? I'll read you a tweet that she posted about this new company. She said, "I started Thinking Machine Labs alongside a remarkable team of scientists, engineers, and builders. We're building 3 things. Number 1, helping people adapt AI systems to work for their specific needs." So that seems like a really customized kind of AI toolkit. Number 2, developing strong foundations to build more capable AI systems. I've seen other things that they've mentioned where like they are actually building foundational models. So this is not software leveraging AI. Like she's getting into the nitty gritty, developing the AI models. This makes perfect sense. Number 3, fostering a culture of open science that helps the whole field understand and improve these systems. Our goal is simple: advance AI by making it broadly useful and understandable through solid foundations, open science, and practical applications. And I think the shout out to open science there might be open source, I'm guessing. So maybe that was a bit of a schism or something that pulled her into doing her own thing. from OpenAI, which went closed source. So yeah, I guess what's your take on this? I mean, we don't have the exact thing they're building by any means, but what's your take on the direction?
Yeah, I think this is going to be phenomenal. And it's sort of the same reason that we were saying before. Again, it's this joint track record of success is really everything. And apparently she is poaching. I was just looking at this 20 OpenAI employees from her past place. Barrett Zoff, I think, was a huge researcher there. And obviously, John Schulman was the bigger name. He was one of the co-founders of OpenAI, and he's going to be the chief scientist. So when you bring over a team like that wants to come and work with Mir Moradi, and you already have two of the top people at OpenAI and two of the top brains at OpenAI coming over there, this is going to be a slam dunk. And it's going to, same thing, they're going to just raise tons and tons of money. It's very hard, again, to see what that means. Everybody has, I'm reading Jaeden's screen right now, where everybody has access to the knowledge and tools to make AI work for their own unique needs and goals. It just sounds like, it sounds so empty and hollow. You're like, what does that mean at all? And yet here they are, they're scientists, and people are just like, yeah, we're going to do it. They have, they have like scientists, engineers from ChatGPT, Character AI, Mistral, like everybody. They have the people. They're going to do great. I just don't know what they're going to do. So this episode, to me, and just like wrapping up, I want to throw it over to you, your final thoughts here, Jaeden. But like, to me, it's so interesting because you see that people trust who they trust. ChatGPT is synonymous with, and OpenAI is synonymous with AI, right? I mean, like, and so anybody that kind of comes out of there is going to do great, especially when you're talking about the original founders. Ilya Suskova has that. Mir Moradi has that. And whatever they build, it's going to be unbelievable. I don't know if it's going to be able to compete. I just don't know how in an era where I think we're going to start seeing these intelligence being sort of commoditized. And I think cost is going to be the bigger issue than how powerful the tools are. So I can see Sutskever's approach with safe superintelligence. That makes sense. I don't totally get thinking machines yet, but it's going to be great. But they have to find their niche in the market. I think that's going to be clear.
100%. The last thing I want to bring up is that they haven't announced how much money they've actually raised. I know this is just a small thing, but I think with Ilya raising a $100 billion valuation, now he's going for $1 billion that he's going to raise at a $30 billion valuation. I think it almost feels like that kind of steals the thunder. So she maybe doesn't want to say how much they've raised because, I don't know, maybe it's intimidating, maybe not. I could be wrong, but regardless, they've obviously raised a lot of money. Apparently they were in talks to raise 100 million earlier, which I think that might have been what Ilya did. So that's not crazy. Ilya's not that much further ahead. But in any case, she has 27, like you mentioned, employees from OpenAI, Character AI, Google DeepMind, a bunch of other top firms. So they have a credible team. They've obviously got money. She's got a really great track record. She worked at Tesla previously. And like what I didn't realize was she was the one of the main people leading. She was the CTO that led the work on ChatGPT, Dolly, and then they did Codex, which was something early that was running GitHub's Copilot for code. So like she has run some of their biggest projects, some of the most impressive things. I'm excited to see what she's able to build. She's obviously an absolute legend in the space. So yeah, I'm like, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm low key more excited to see what she builds than Ilya, only because he's probably the smarter entrepreneur, like taking in the insane amounts of money and being like, don't expect anything for a couple years. I mean, like, okay, yeah, that's gangster. But I really like how it seems like she's a little bit scrappier. She's fighting a little bit harder. She worked on these practical products, and now she's like, I'm going to build products. So for me, I'm like excited. I have no idea what Ilya's going to do. I can get a little bit more of a vision of what she's going to do, like products that I would actually use. And so for me, I'm excited about that. But all in all, crazy stuff happening with OpenAI and the incredible legacy they're leaving behind in their wake. More to come, no doubt about all of that. All right, wrapping up the episode, I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already left a review, we would be eternally grateful for a review. And the final plug I want to say, which I don't know if anyone listening to this podcast knows this, but Conor has written one of the most incredible books of all time, a New York Times bestseller that my wife frequently brings up random things like, oh my gosh, in Conor's book, it was talking about X, Y, and Z thing, and it's so incredible. And she's really inspired. It's about him going to Nepal and helping out orphanage and all these orphans. Okay, oh my gosh, you have to read his book, Little Princes. That's the title, right, Connor? Little Princes. I know this is like he did this like 20 years ago or something. You wrote so like this isn't anything new. This isn't like some new thing Connor is working on. But I just have to bring that up. If you haven't read his book already, like go to Amazon and get Little Princes. This is one of the most inspiring books you'll read in your entire life. And absolutely a huge fan. So go check it out. I'll throw a link in the description to the Amazon for that in today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your day.